to the water quality, and they're very sensitive to cold. I can't find one. If anybody's growing stolonifer, I'd love to see if we can make a deal and I could get a pup from you. I've talked to Dennis, doesn't grow it anymore, he and Brian. Michael says he had it when he was living in St. Pete, and it kind of went away somewhere over the years. But it's one that I have not personally grown, so I don't know anything about it. The rest of them I have. The next one is Neoregelia wardakii, or wardakii, depending on how you want to say it. Again, it has that upright form, sort of the reddish look to it. Doesn't get quite as large, but it takes on a number of different forms, and several of these next ones that I'm going to talk about all kind of look alike. Some of them, the only difference is the length of the sepals surrounding the petals is the only way you can tell them apart. But you end up with different forms, and the wardakii is sort of neat in the way that it grows and pups off. A lot of the pups in this whole subfamily will come out elongated, and you say, what in the world is this? You think of Wilsoniana, if you're familiar with those long, skinny leaves, and then as it takes on its adult, mature form, it turns into something that looks entirely different. So you can have a whole pot full of kind of mess, and then the plants come on out and look better later. Attractive plants, you can see the leaves, again, pointed, wide at the base. But it can really be a nice display. If you can grow outside and keep them warm enough in the winter, you can put them out on your limestone rocks and let them just kind of do something like that, and that'll impress the neighbors. But again, you see when they start out, you've got sort of unusual looking pups. They just really change form a lot. The next one is Neoregelia leviana. And this is kind of an example of what can happen to you if you grow in low light and heavy fertilization. You can get these etiolated, washed out, elongated leaves. And it's not quite as attractive a plant, in my mind, as one grown harder. These are epiphytic, western Amazon basin again. And this, I can't figure this one out. Now, John Catlin is an Aussie, so he's growing this thing in Australia. And this is a picture that's got some age on it. And that's one of the Australian coins sitting there to tell you. And I visited Australia this January and February, and the coins are all different sizes, so I'm not sure which one this is. But I think the color is definitely off on this photo, and it kind of throws you off, because my plants and most of the ones that I do, even though this photo's by Bob Spivey, and he's from Shreveport, so he's from Louisiana, so I'm going to go with Bob. Plus, my plant looks like this. It's more of a lavender form when it comes into bloom. And I'm weird for purple, so I'll buy into lavender. I like those colors. But it's a really interesting plant, not a real large plant generally, but nice form and a lavender type center. The next one is Neoregelia rosea. Now, I mentioned there were some rosea forms of Elephoropetala, but this is a different species. This is rosea, and it's really kind of a neat plant. It handles the cold better than some of the others in the subgenus, but it makes it a really attractive plant, and I've won best of division in some of those with this plant, so I have my own personal feelings for it. But it's a really nice plant. And I'll show you the example in a few minutes of one that's mounted on wood. It makes a great mount also. But that's a picture of what it looks like in bloom. Now we're getting to the small ones, the ones that the subfamily is known for. This is Neoregelia moriana. And when I say they live in the upper canopy of the trees, this is the upper canopy, probably solid plants from top to bottom. Moriana has two synonyms. You might have heard of Peruviana in the past, and the other one is Ossifragii. Both of those have been lumped in with Moriana. So if you're expecting me to talk about them, I am right now. They're found in Peru and Ecuador. And they say, this picture is from FECBS, it really didn't have enough light to do it justice. But when you get into botany again, the stolons on these Morianas are plagiogeotropic, which basically means that they like to come out horizontally or on just a slight curve. So they grow out at an oblique angle or horizontally when they come off of the plant. Normally, when you see the Morianas, you see the green form, big spines, small plants, and then they have that bell shape with leaves that are curling down. Very attractive look. And they also don't flush with the real red centers like some of the others. Well, most all the others do. They don't flush like that. But they do have several forms that are darker. Some of the forms that come out with this sort of a chocolatey color, which is a dark form, which can be an attractive look, again, for the plant. This is really my favorite. I've seen the plant, and I couldn't cajole a pup because there wasn't one. And we couldn't agree on me taking the plant and him not keeping it. So, since we couldn't agree on that, he kept his plant. I still don't have that. But that's really an attractive color form of the Moriana that you very seldom see. Moving on to the next, and probably the most well-known and thought of the Heliacum, is Neoregelia pendula. Neoregelia pendula forms long stolons, dense groups. This was at a world conference where I took this picture, and this thing, I would say,